Hey, Bright Lights, welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. My name is Angela. I'm an architect, researcher, and feng shui practitioner, and I make thoughtful weekly videos on the science of design for well-being. I do this work and share it so you don't have to. All you have to do is like and subscribe to this channel, and every week you will get new information that you can put to use right away. It's super helpful if you are an architect or an interior designer, but you don't have to be an industry expert to do this. I break it down. I use a simple, easy to understand language. So literally anyone who cares about these issues can start to be an advocate for better design because you'll understand exactly why it matters. So what we do every week is I use my Salutogenesis card deck, which has two parts: foundational concepts, the things that are at the root of well-being or dis-ease, and the aspects part of the deck. Those are 5 core theories that my research says contribute to creating that salutogenic environment. And each of those core research topics are almost like the ace in a suit of cards. They form a whole alphabet. There's more supporting theories. So the way this works, every single week I shuffle the cards. I set an intention that the cards I draw are going to be the message we most need to hear for the week. And I draw from each part of the deck. I don't know what's going to come up, but the challenge is that there's a reason those two cards were paired together. And I'm going to talk about them specifically as they relate to one another. Because as you could imagine, there's a lot of research that goes into building each of these cards, and I could write whole papers, multiple, on each of them. By breaking it down like this, though, you get only the information that's essential for the week. So you're going to hear different nuances about a card, even if I've drawn it before. The card that I drew for this week from the foundational concept section is oxytocin and the HPA axis. Now, this sounds really, really complicated, but the key to understanding this is right here on the card. Just like walk, don't walk, they can't both be on at the same time. Stress, don't stress, are the same way. So what you need to know is HPA is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. When we are stressed out, there is a whole chain reaction of different things that happen in our brain and in our adrenal glands that release certain hormones, turn on and off certain functions within our body. Oxytocin is a hormone that is produced when we feel love, gratitude, joy, thankfulness, positive emotions. And what is really cool is that they are what is called mutually regulating, meaning if your oxytocin levels are raised, your stress levels automatically have to lower. That's just how it works. Now, that is really cool because what research shows is that when we elevate our oxytocin levels, we can actually show up in the world as better humans. We are going to feel more empathy with people. We are going to feel more connected to other people. And we can raise those oxytocin levels by meditating, having a gratitude practice, having loving and supportive people in our lives. Anything that makes us happy, choosing to do that more regularly, and especially starting our day that way. When we have those elevated levels of oxytocin, research by Wu, Li, and Su has shown that that actually will increase our empathy. And when our empathy levels are up, we actually feel more generous to other people. And that's because that oxytocin is promoting the emotional and cognitive aspects of empathy. So we're all going to be a lot kinder, a lot better, a lot more generous as human beings, a lot more tolerant of one another if our oxytocin levels are up. Further research by Lay et al. Has also shown that it improves our social interactions, which makes sense. So some of the things we want to look at here are how can we help to increase perception of social cues. Oxytocin lets us read the room a whole lot better, which means that we are not just focused on ourselves, but we're able to be more attuned to what other people are saying and doing, and maybe the motivation behind it instead of just how it might be impacting us. We talked about how it improves empathy, but it also increases prosociality, which is meaning that we are more attuned to the needs and the feelings of others, and that we care more about their well-being and are willing to do more to help them do better. So whether that's increasing donations, increasing volunteerism, increasing mentorship, all of that good stuff can happen when our oxytocin levels are higher. Now let's look at the companion card, which is cultural competence. Now, this is part of the sense of coherence alphabet of cards, and sense of coherence is associated with the metal element. So this is logic, this is reasoning, this is cognition that we are talking about here. And you can see on the card here, we've got this idea of a bridge that is connecting things, because it's easy to be culturally competent when you are part of a culture. You get it, you know what to do. But when we are working with people from a different kind of culture, we need to bridge that gap. And some of what you see depicted on the card, the eagle flying above the scene, represents that higher level of awareness, that willingness to see the meta situation, as well as to focus very clearly, because eagles are known for their good eyesight, being eagle-eyed, right, on the very specific details. So let's talk about what this means. So cultural competence is basically a willingness to understand the shared knowledge, beliefs, and practices that a group of people within a culture have. You need to understand these are inherited, they are transferred among generations, and it's a form of collective memory. So it means that we are going to include a community in the design process. We're designing with, not for. We're going to really look at co-creating in design. It means we're going to take the time to learn and respect heritage, including things that may be historic elements or features or traditional building styles, and at least try to reference that in the new design. We're going to use traditional building materials or local building materials. Maybe we're even going to employ people within the community to build the project. So we're helping them to learn skills, to have pride of place, to be part of whatever it is, as opposed to just having this project land in their community. It means that we're going to also look at things like, how do we use local art or artists, people that can create images and symbols that get it, that are going to do things that are relevant and meaningful to the people. Remember, meaningful is part of sense of coherence. Means we're going to try to incorporate culturally significant symbols or spatial arrangements. Even orientation can matter. In certain cultures, facing east can be important, facing south or north, right? So we need to know that so we do it the right way. Also, using the right colors. So, for example, in China, white symbolizes death. So you don't want to use white in places where that connotation could be scary, like, say, for example, in a healthcare institution or educational building. That's not going to be very welcoming to people who've grown up in that cultural tradition. We're also going to think about program elements that can reflect the cultural needs. So you may need to have prayer rooms for people that are required to pray certain times a day. You may need to think about groups that there's extended friends and family that are going to accompany an individual on, say, a medical visit or come with them to events, and how do we accommodate those family groups? So there's a lot of different things here to think about that. And again, the best way to do that is not to just read up and think you got it, but to really ask, engage, and involve that community in the process. If you are not yourself a designer, get more proactive about how you can know what's going on in your community and how you can start to contribute to that. Show up, engage, make sure that your voice is heard. Now, the last thing I'll say as we put together these two thoughts about raising oxytocin levels and thinking about designing with cultural competence is that we do need to be careful about bias, because when we have that elevated oxytocin level, when we are thinking about being more prosocial, more engaged, more involved, we also can tend to identify with the group and create this in-group mentality, which can mean that we other people who are not part of that in-group. So just be aware as you form cultural connections that they can be positive because they definitely give a sense of belonging and keep that oxytocin loop flowing, but that we don't want to isolate a group culturally either and create a bias within this group that others who don't belong to their group are somehow not as good or somehow not as willing to work with them, or any other fear-based thinking. So make sure that we're also providing opportunities for people to have awareness beyond their culture while still having that sense of belonging. I think this is a really powerful combination of cards this week, and really brings to mind a lot of things that we tend to overlook in design. We look just at how we've always done something instead of looking at how we can do it for the specific people that need to be living, working, playing, healing in the space. So I hope that this helped you. Definitely leave a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe, and absolutely tell a friend about this channel. Have conversations about the topics. I've heard that people are using it to show classes they teach and then having a class discussion around the topic. This is exactly what I'm hoping to do with this, is to really share this knowledge, help you understand the role that design can play, and then giving you the power to go forth and make a difference. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.